But I'm going to hand this over to Dupes because as we bring in Paul Hendrick, longtime Leafs reporter, Leafs TV, TSN. Henny, listen, you see my gear. I got a Jets bunny hug on. My favorite team's Canada's team, the Vegas Golden Knights. But as you know, I'm surrounded by Leaf fans, and one sitting here right here with a well-coiffed hair, Darren Dupont. So I said, you're interviewing Henny. Dupes, you're on.
That's it. You got nothing?
I'm out of here.
Not one?
Go.
Okay.
You're wasting time.
How are you, Paul?
Hey, I'm good. I'm glad to see Rod's at the kids' table for a change. Let's do this.
Yeah, you and me both. This is pretty good.
Got it. Okay,
pretty
go.
good. Okay, so first off, just where would you summarize the Leafs right now? Because Rod kind of asked me that off the top, and it's tough because you come off the Edmonton 3 games, and now what's happened the last 8 or 10 games. How would you summarize where they're at right now?
Well, I think if the Leafs were to look back prior to training camp in December and say, here we would be the end of March, you'll be in first place with a completely healthy club, I think they'd sign off on that. Now, there's a caveat with completely healthy club. Practice today, their third, fourth, and fifth string goaltenders were out today, and Michael Hutchinson, Joseph Woll, and former Prince Albert standout Ian Scott. The top 2 guys, Campbell and Anderson, were not there. And my only concern is they've all had a couple of days off, more so for Anderson. It all starts in nets. And if they're able to manage the load from here on in, given just how balanced this club is defensively inside their own zone, which is a big change from seasons past, I think they're going to be in great shape. But health is wealth, and it begins in nets for the Leafs. And I think there are some question marks right now, just given the fact that those 2 goaltenders were not in the ice. Now, all of this said, the Leafs have only played 2 games in between 10 days. This is an opportunity, if you're going to rest some of these guys, to do it now. I just hope for Leafs' sake it isn't too serious with both those number 1 and 2 goaltenders, whoever the 1 and 2 is at this point in time.
How comfortable would you think that Kyle Dubas is in the goaltending situation? Freddie Anderson hasn't played, up to expectation, but Jack Campbell has, but they haven't been healthy. Mm-hmm. Are they comfortable with that tandem going forward, or do you think, a change has to be made?
No, I think they're comfortable. And if both are healthy, or at least relatively healthy, I think, Darren, they're going to go the way with them. Michael Fuda, a longtime general manager in Los Angeles, now with Sportsnet, he's always spoken highly of Campbell and believes Campbell should be given the opportunity. I know this is a contract year for Freddie Anderson. I know he wants to do well. If this team's able to do well with him and Nets heading into the postseason and possibly going deep, he's going to make his money some way, somehow, whether it be in Toronto or somewhere else in the National Hockey League. So, no, they're very much happy. I think if there's a change, or at least an addition, they'd like to add some grit on the blue line. Maybe a 5-6 kind of guy, but just something to bolster what they've got in Bogosian and Muzzin, and possibly a top 6 forward that would thus bump a forward down to the third line and bring some scoring balance through the top 3 lines. And they're getting it. I mean, with Spezza and company on the 4th line right now, but I see Kyle getting one or both of a top 6 forward and a 5-6 defenseman with grit. And I see that happening sooner than later, given when the deadline is and given the chance that they're going to have to trade with somebody stateside and all that the quarantine is going to have to offer to bring those guys up here before they get a chance to play.
Yeah, you can see the evidence of that already, right? The waiver moves and both Boyd and VC being claimed. Galchenyuk's the other guy I wanted to ask you about. And how do you see them using him moving forward? I know he played pretty well with the Marlies, and he's contributing already. I mean, it's far too early, but long term, do you see him sticking in the top 6 or maybe in the third line?
Yeah, they think he can play in either of those top 3 lines, and I guess you could stick him on the 4th, but why would you do that? No, they see him as an opportunity, a reclamation project who may have needed a change, and they're going to get a chance. Obviously, he is to work with the Marlies development people and now with the Maple Leaf people, and I mean, was he 2nd overall? And you just don't go that high, or 3rd overall, whatever it was, back in 2012. And not have something that's there. So they're hoping to cap into that. It's not cost them anything. And if he's able to do so, then he's going to help this hockey club. And he has something to prove as well. Seems very happy. It's interesting when you come on a team and you look around that dressing room to see all the skill and leadership that is there. This, for me, is the best Maple Leaf team I've had an opportunity to really well, cover, but be around and be a part of not necessarily this team this year, but through the rest of my 25 years with this hockey club. This is the best team I think the Leafs have had in terms of elite skill up front. And now Galchenyuk's got a chance to rub shoulders with this talent, rub shoulders with some of that leadership that's in that room. And I think it might make him a better hockey player. The Leafs have rolled the dice, and we'll see what happens. But I think he could fit on either of the top three lines, and that's a credit to his skill set.
Okay, Henny, I'm back at the adults table here, and you got some pearls that you've said there was the defensive play of the Leafs. That's the one thing that I clung to, because that's what the scouts are talking about, that they are committing to playing defense and how there's always a leaf between the opposing forward and their net. It's unbelievable. Some are saying that the Oilers have picked up on that, and that's, kind of modeling what the Leafs have done. Now, Mike Babcock is a personal friend of mine. You saw his first interview was on this show since being fired. Has that been the biggest change with the Leafs under Sheldon Keefe, is the defensive play, and how's he gone about getting them to buy in?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rod, because if you can't get Mike Babcock to get you to buy in on that, I'm not sure what was. And I know before Mike was fired, they were in Pittsburgh, and Kazimir Kaskasuo is in nets. And you think if you're going to play for anybody, you're going to play for this goaltender who gave it his all. I didn't see anything that night, which leads me to think that, I don't know, maybe they were playing to get a coach fired, and not long after, in fact, just a couple of days later, Mike was gone. In comes Sheldon. And, as Mike said, he was getting paid half his money to coach the Maple Leafs, the other half to get whacked. He knew he was going to get fired at some point in time. That just goes with the profession. Mike's resume speaks for itself. He's a great hockey coach. What has Sheldon done? They've maybe just bought into it. They've added some players. He had better than a half a season to repeat his message and drill in as they came to camp this time through the bubble playoff last summer. Still, the message was, we've got to be better in our own zone. Then you had the likes of a Bogosian who'd won a Stanley Cup, a TJ Brody. They just get better. A healthy Jake Muzzin. And you've got that elite core up front. And, Marner, Matthews, Nylander. This is their fifth year together as a group. They're not kids anymore. It's beyond run and gun hockey. It's a chance to play as a group, 5 men inside deep, and realizing that, hey, if they can only score 1 or 2, we can easily score 3 goals to win a hockey game. So they bought into it. I think it's a credit to their maturity. It's a credit to Sheldon Keefe and his coaching staff. But I just think the timing was right for Sheldon, perhaps more so than for Mike, who inherited a club that was rock bottom. He got them to a certain level, and maybe his time was done and they needed to hear a different voice. No slate on Babs. He's one of the premier coaches on the planet.
Chiming in with just some viewer comments here. Jay in Vancouver says the Canucks just picked up 2 Leafs that were put on waivers from the Puck and Pigskin podcast out of Red Deer. They write, Jack Campbell is absolutely the number 1 until proven otherwise. Janelle Barkman in Saskatoon, she's a Blades fan. She says, my kid and I were just talking about the Leafs goalie situation this morning, so this is perfect. Heard they called up Ian Scott. You mentioned that, right, Henny? He's with the big club now? Ian Scott? Okay.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what a comeback story for him. So good for Ian.
Yeah, and a tremendous netminder, too. But how about this one? It had to have come across your radar when John Scott, St. Catharines kid, said the Leafs are just mowing the North Division. There's no other competition there. And I brought him on and challenged him on it, and he wasn't backing down. Where are you on that take by the big man, John Scott?
John's a great talker, and he's a showman, and anything he can do to stir it up. Hey, listen, the North is it's an accordion, and all of a sudden things have tightened up. And, you think back to the original 6 days where those teams were playing each other 15 times. Good God, it was rough. Not so bad this time around, maybe 9 to 10 times, but we're getting a chance to for teams they don't have to scout the other team. They know exactly what has to be done. And I think the remaining 24 to 25 games, this is going to be a sprint that's going to be absolutely fantastic. I still think the Leafs are the best team in the division. They've got to have healthy goaltending, because if they don't, then all bets are off. But that said, you look at the goaltending in the entire North Division, at least those top 5 teams still in contention for playoff spots, the goaltending in each of those squads is outstanding. And in a playoff series and where you only have to win 2 rounds, that could be the difference to get to the NHL Final Four. The Leafs know they're close. And that's why I think Kyle Dubas is going to pull the trigger on 1, possibly 2 trades to bolster up front and to bolster themselves on the blue line. They just haven't been this close in about 20 years. And even 20 years ago, you can argue they weren't as close as this club is. And considering the talent this team has, you've got to get things done within the next 3 to 5 years. And they've got a shot at it this year. So why not take that shot?
I'll leave you with this. John in Calgary asked this a while back. I'm going to put it to you. Did the NHL err in not having an all-Canadian division in the years leading up to this? Like, I'm really loving it. I think you are too. Should it stay? Because you know that they're going to open the border and we're going to have the divisional, outside the divisional road trips into America. I'm not opposed to it. How would you answer that?
I would like it. I just think practically, just the size of our country makes it really, really difficult. I think of Vancouver and the Alberta teams coming all this way. Winnipeg might be the best off, given that they're just a couple of hours from Eastern Canada. I just think the geography of the situation makes it rather difficult. That said, I thought when I settled down this summer, I thought, okay, I'm going to step away from it, that I wasn't going to watch much hockey. I've not missed an entire Leaf game, and I just wish Sportsnet would have more of those games on rather. I'll watch Boston, but I'd rather see our Canadian division play all the time. I really like it. I just think big picture, it's not practical, but I could get used to seeing Connor and Edmonton and Scheifele and company 5 to 6 times a year at least. I'd like to see that if we can do that. Maybe not Vancouver Canucks 10 times a year. It's a long way to travel for both sides.
That's the only reason is travel. I'm with you. I said that's why they haven't done it yet, is travel. But I could be convinced because the hockey's been so great. And the stir that it's created has been amazing. Henny, as always, a fantastic visit. I appreciate the time. Hope things are going well here in retirement. Are we calling you that? Are we bothering you here in retirement? You said that you were good to talk hockey whenever.
It was an opportunity to wash my hair and shave, and I only do that on days I do my podcast. The first question and with Paul Hendrick, give it a listen. There's my plug, but no, listen, staying busy and loving it. So thanks for the opportunity, and I hope to have Clark have me back on again at some point.
Okay, Paul, appreciate the time. Stay well. Paul Hendrick joining us from the Big Smoke today. There you go.
Yeah.
Be feeling even better about your Leafs after that, I bet, eh?
Why not, right? Ray of optimism. I love it.
Yeah.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.